Everybody knows that I'm learning French. Okay?
What?
I know,
thought you were
bullet.
learning Japanese.
No. I'm learning French, and when you're learning, there's very few moments of feeling of I am making progress.
Yeah.
There's very little of that when you're learning a language.
Yeah.
A lot of it is you're just in the dark, hoping to God that all that you're doing kind of compounds from day to day, and that one day you'll kind of have an epiphany of, oh, I can read this page that I've tried to read before and I couldn't understand a darn thing. Now I can actually understand a lot of it. Oh, wow. So that kind of happened to me. I had another epiphany or feeling of, oh, I'm actually making progress with this language. I feel like I've kind of turned a corner, not the corner, but I have turned a corner where I feel like I'm not just wasting my time, and that the little things that I'm doing every day over time are making a difference. And so that finally, that gave me hope, because at some point you're just like, what am I doing? Like, is this even, sure, I can pronounce the words, but like, I don't know. I'm not a big cue card person when it comes to languages. That's how I tried to do Spanish, and like I couldn't do anything with that language. But with French, I've taken a completely different approach, and it's more, I'm thinking of the long game, not just cramming as much as I can every day in the cue cards, like looking at these cue cards where it's like, how is this in context with the sentence?
Yeah.
How often do people really use these words? Sure, it's the top 1,000 words, but like, what's the context of using these? What do the people sound like when they're saying it? So I just do a lot of listening and trying to read, and that it's helped. I finally feel like I'm understanding it. So that gave me hope.
Good. What was the moment that it hit? Like,
there's one book I have, French Stories, and it's basics. It's like the top, I don't know, 2,000 words maybe, kind of in a story. He kind of does a good job at throwing those words in. I couldn't read that at all, not even that long ago. And then recently I was like, I should pull that out again. I always kind of read the first page over and over and over again. But the other day I pulled it out and I was like, oh, wow, I can understand almost everything in this now. The basic. Nice. And then I flipped the page and was like, oh, wow, I can understand. And I was like, you know what? I want to go to story 2 because there's multiple stories in this. So I went to story 2, which I literally could not understand at all because it got a lot harder. Like they started using past tense. And I knew enough that I was like able to parse through like what it was saying. It was a bit excruciating, but I could reason through what it was saying at least. And so I was like, wow, okay, I'm actually able to kind of understand past tenses and different things at this point where you can read more in-depth stuff.
Yeah.
And when I'm listening to the language now, before it just sounded like gibberish, where it was like, where does one word start and one word end? How do they use pronouns? Because they use pronouns differently. Like they're at the beginning of the sentence more than they are at the end. Like they're direct objects. If it's like, I gave this to her, it would be like, I to her gave this. Yeah. So it just... now that I kind of have those puzzle pieces more like in the right place, now when I'm listening to it, I can like hang on to certain words and be like, oh, okay, that's the start of a word, that's the end of a word. That's the start and that's the end. And I can kind of at least do that too. So going from zero, knowing not how a French person sounds like or what the accent is like at all, to now being able to read generally almost every word and be able to understand basic stuff. I feel like I'm on... in between A1 and A2 level, which you want to get to B2. Once you can get to B2, I personally wouldn't say you're fluent at that point, but you're fluent where you can talk to somebody and have a conversation, and if you words that you don't understand, you can ask them and understand their explanations. Yeah.
That's cool.
And that's fluency.
Okay.
Then there's like C1, C2, and that's even people who speak English
heard
aren't.
These terms.
Oh, okay. Well, even people who speak English in the United States might not even be C2 level mastery of the language. I go to sleep, and I make sure I look at French before I go to sleep so that I think about it. Yeah. And one day I had the nieces and nephews were over, and they asked. I tell them things in French, and they were they were like, what are you doing in French or something? And and I couldn't remember. But I knew, or how are you doing? And I couldn't remember at the point, which I know it now. But I went to sleep thinking, what is that? How do you say? I didn't look it up. I was just a thought. And so I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and I didn't have the "how are you doing" as my thought. You know, you wake up and you're having a thought immediately as you wake up. I've been thinking about this in my sleep. It was for what are you doing? And this was a translation that I like completely didn't even remember at all. It was something I had done on Rosetta Stone like a while ago.
Yeah.
And I woke up saying "Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que tu fais?" And I was like, "What is qu'est-ce? Oh, that's what are you doing?" It was like my brain was literally going in the back
on it.
Yeah, and I woke up saying something I didn't even know that I knew.
Dude, that's crazy.
So I looked it up. I was like, what? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Oh, it's what are you doing? And I was like, why did I? Oh, because I was trying to figure out how are you doing?
This is why you can come back to a puzzle game after a day, and all of a sudden, something you were stuck on for an hour, you just solve in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Your brain is solving it even if you're not aware of it.
It's amazing. That's why rest is so important. It truly is.
Yeah.
People underestimate that. But like truly resting, not like looking at stuff.
Yeah.
I'm resting while I'm watching YouTube videos. No, you're not. You're not resting. You don't even know what that word means anymore in this time.